We have seen this clearly in the past months, when Trump's erratic trade measures triggered volatility across financial markets. The EU response, especially in the face of the unjustified trade measures from a long-standing ally, will be remembered. Our approach must strike a careful balance, preserving the principle of trust, respect and transatlantic cooperation, while also shielding European citizens and industries from economic harm. I therefore call on the Commission to act decisively within their 90 days retaliatory pause. The current pause from the Trump administration is de facto a 25% tariff on EU steel, aluminium and automobiles, and a 10% tariff on almost all other goods. The Commission's decision to hold off on immediate retaliation is wise. De-escalation creates a space for dialogue. But let us be clear, inaction cannot become our policy. Within these 90 days, we must prepare a strong, a measured and a unified response. And at the same time, we must do three things to strategically position Europe, and that is strengthen the single market, negotiate and ratify more free trade agreements, not least Mercosur and the Mexico one, and then reasserting leadership within WTO, because we need the rules-based international system when there is unpredictable in the world.
Donald Trump and his worldview are a direct threat not only to international trade, but also to the values that underpin our democracies. Its trade war against the European Union with unjustified tariffs, threats to our industries, and permanent blackmail is the most obvious manifestation of an authoritarian economic nationalism that disregards international law and cooperation among equals. Trump and his far-right partners inside and outside the European Union do not believe in a world ordered by rules, but in the law of the strongest. And in the face of their onslaught, we cannot and must not falter. We are here to strongly defend the European model, a model based on social justice, the welfare state, and an economy that puts people at the center. The European Union must respond forcefully. Our response must be deployed on several fronts: the protection of our workers, consumers and businesses, the defense of the rules-based international order with a strong and reformed WTO, and a negotiation in the face of Trump from a position of firmness without giving in to any kind of blackmail. We have the tools, but we must use them when necessary. If this threat continues, we must adopt sanctions and levies on large technology companies that fail to comply with our rules and exclude U.S. companies from European public procurement. If this threat and blackmail continues, and at the same time we must strengthen the internal market, we must boost domestic demand and support industry and the regions most affected by this trade war with a direct aid plan. And let's not forget that the world is bigger than Trump.
We have every right to retaliate with graduated customs duties as a means of pressure to negotiate a return to normality. Europe is a market of 450 million consumers, and it would be incomprehensible for it to stand idly by. But the real response is a clear break with at least 3 decades of wandering. A break with the choices made by the European Commission at a time when we have entered an era of confrontation. Europe can no longer be the only power to respect international rules of decorum that no one applies anymore. In the face of fierce competition from other powers, particularly emerging powers, in the adversity of a tougher and more uncertain world, I implore you, wake up, wake up. Either our agriculture will disappear, wake up, or our car industry will go out of business. Our metal industry will suffer an even more terrible loss. And I'm obviously thinking here of the employees of ArcelorMittal, condemned by culpable inaction and absurd rules. Wake up and build the strategic autonomy of nations and the continent, with the aim of depending as little as possible on the outside world for our vital needs, starting with our own defense. All the restrictive rules of the Green Pact inspired by punitive ecology must be lifted to allow our companies and farmers in particular to produce without hindrance. The rules of the European electricity market must be reformed, and nuclear power must take its rightful place in our energy mix. Genuine national and European preference in public procurement must be applied, particularly in defense, but not only. Wake up and get out of naivety, or Europe and all its constituent nations will go down in history.
We must admit that the policy of tariffs has also been a European policy that is aimed not only at those who violate free competition every day, such as China, but also at valuable allies such as American citizens. I give just one example. Until a few weeks ago, the United States was placing a 2.5% duty on European cars. The European Union placed a 10% duty on American cars. This is where we need to start for a free trade agreement with the United States, with zero tariffs on both sides, and what Maloney discussed.
The Make America Great Again is a frontal attack on multilateralism. It's a frontal attack on a Europe where 27 countries play the game of cooperation. It's a frontal attack on what we built together in the aftermath of the Second World War. Yes, dear colleagues, regulated world trade is a tool for lasting peace, the most powerful we have ever known. And yet, Donald Trump has decided to launch a trade war on the whole world, except Russia, Belarus, and North Korea. So I'd like to say three things to the American presidents. The trade war benefits no one, and certainly not American consumers, who are the first to pay the price. 2. Europe will always be a fair and reliable trading partner, respecting international rules. 3. If we have to play the balance of power, then we're ready. As you pointed out, Mr. Vice President, we have all the trade defense tools we need to protect our fellow citizens and our businesses.
And trade policy is used as a weapon to assert economic interests and stake out international spheres of influence. European policy must counter this with a clear strategy that protects the economy and jobs in the European Union. And this is only possible with massive investment in our industry. This is only possible if the European Union is strategically independent. Today, Commissioner, you too know that the Commission's initial head-in-the-sand strategy, a la "it won't be so bad," was a political denial of reality. Now you want to negotiate a deal in the interests of Donald Trump. And if that doesn't work, there are supposed to be tough countermeasures. I hear a lot about offers from you. There are plenty of them. Now even more U.S. fracking gas is to be bought. Instead of promoting European energy independence and thus creating many jobs, a new dependency on fossil fuels is being created. This is economically, socially, and ecologically fundamentally wrong. But there is still no sign of pressure on the U.S. government. Where is the introduction of the instrument against coercive measures? Where is the tough regulation of the big tech companies? Where is the introduction of a European digital tax? You close your eyes and put your hands behind your back. Do you want to throw even more money down the throats of the richest companies and people like Elon Musk, and above all, our private data down their throats in this way? It is now time to work with partners such as Canada, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, and China on a trade order that is rules-based and based on fair trade rather than unbridled free trade.
The result is even higher energy prices at the expense of our industry, our families, and our prosperity. The arrogant attitude with which many in European politics have looked down on Donald Trump over the years is also taking its revenge. The public attacks have meant that there are no trustworthy channels of communication with the U.S. government today, neither in Brussels nor in Berlin or Paris. Fortunately, there are also other voices in Europe, Viktor Orban, Giorgia Meloni, and many patriotic governments that have maintained contact. But it's not just about America. Trade alternatives have also been negligently destroyed by know-it-all attitudes towards China, India, and large parts of Africa. Instead of partnership, there were lectures on democracy, human rights, and the climate. And today we lack precisely these partners as alternatives that we need in order to show strength in negotiations with the U.S. Because if you have no alternatives, you also have no negotiating power. The European establishment has isolated our continent through arrogance. But if you want to survive in the 21st century, you need cooperation instead of confrontation. Partnerships, not enemies. And one more thing. Today, it's becoming clear how important the European single market is. As the AfD, we have always been committed to these. Our motto is Germany first, but not Germany alone. Europe must speak with one voice on key trade issues. But this also presupposes one thing. The European establishment must end the internal division. Do you recognize the election result in Romania? Stop interfering in Hungary's internal affairs from Brussels and stop the persecution of the AfD in Germany.